So I think now we have time for 1 or 2 questions directed specifically at this last talk.
Hi, Ignacio Mastroleo from Flaxo, Buenos Aires. Just a question of clarification. I don't understand, or why did Nubia receive these experimental trials? Because she had viral load, or because that was not?
Yeah. So, well, what really works in Ebola is still like a session that could last easily 1 hour. The problem is that all of the trials were insufficiently powered to detect small differences. What we know is, and I'll tell you in the break how we know this, but that ZMapp has a 91% chance to work. But it was insufficient, because in a trial, normally the p-value is put at less than 0.05. So there is a, but you should always be careful. There is a trend that it might work. So we said this baby is such an unusual case that we wanted to give her all possible opportunities for a better outcome. For the GS compound, since that she was and what I also have to say, there were data on non-human primates, both on the ZMapp and both on the GS compound. Well, we don't do cesarean sections in Ebola. First of all, like just, well, maybe it's good to say, just for the practical setup, everything that is inside an Ebola treatment center cannot come out and needs to be burned. Like, what do you do with all your material in an OT? Secondly, I don't think, like, even why would you do C-section? Not for the mother. The C-section would probably have, I think, killed the mother 24 hours earlier. She was a patient in multi-organ failure and with hemorrhagic signs. And for the baby, well, the baby was not, the mother was more important at that stage. Also because Nubia's mother had told us that she was 7 months pregnant. So we were expecting a small premature baby of 1.5 kg, and we got a nice one of 3 kg. Yeah, and also, like, I'm not sure if we would find healthcare workers willing to risk the effect of having a needle stick injury in an Ebola-positive patient. While before the epidemic, we thought that your chance of getting Ebola is 100%. Now there have been people who got accidental needle stick injuries, but not doing surgery, and they got experimental vaccines, and the data are quite reassuring. But also, I'm a clinician. To ask me, would you be willing to do a cesarean section in an Ebola-positive patient, a patient without surgery with more than 50% of dying? Like, it's a very difficult ethical question.
My question is actually for Melba, so maybe I'll wait till we get to the general discussion, or do I ask it now?
Go ahead.
So I guess one of the things I didn't understand from your presentation is, at the end of the day, what the ethical justification would be for 100% exclusion of pregnant women, at least in terms of how you presented the data. And so, if I'm understanding correctly, at the time, the belief is you've got 100% risk of death to the fetus. So the vaccine's not going to hurt them more, right, if they're going to die, unless you believe that the harm to the fetus is that the fetus will actually be born alive, and that that's going to be the harm because you think the fetus will be born alive and compromised, which is an unusual kind of way to describe harming someone, actually bringing them to life, but compromised. And so what I want to ask is the following question. If I am that woman and I'm pregnant and I desperately want to live, and that is my sole goal, and I think this baby is replaceable. You may or may not like my way of thinking, but I think this baby is replaceable if I can live, and I want to do everything I can to get into that trial. Could I, and I know the answer to some of these questions is no, but I'm an uneducated woman with respect to all the technicalities, and I say, look, I will agree to a C-section, get this baby out of me so I can get in the trial. and you say, no, we can't do that. You say, okay, well, I'll consent to an abortion. Get this baby out of me so I can get into the trial. And you say, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, I will agree to infanticide. You know, just get this baby out of me. And you say, no, we can't do that. Okay, I agree that if the baby survives, I will not make a claim against you if the baby is harmed. So I say I will bend myself out of shape to just get into this trial because I want to live. So what's the ethical justification of saying there's nothing you can do because we don't want you to have the chance of survival because you happen to be pregnant and therefore you've lost the right to have any chance of anything? And I guess, so at the end of the day, to me, what's the ethical justification for saying we can just discriminate against you because you had the bad luck to be pregnant?
Making the case that we tried to make far more eloquently than perhaps we did. But that was exactly our point.
Maybe also the striking thing for me is this, as Melba already said, this issue is not cleared out. There will be a next epidemic. The virus is there in bats, in the environment, in non-human primates. And in the next epidemic, Nubia's mother is going to get Ebola again. This 3-month-old baby is also going, Nubia's half brother is also going to get Ebola again, and Nubia is going to get Ebola again. And I don't know what we should do to get this thing cleared up.
I think this is the real dilemma in this case, that we had all the conditions to include. We were authorized to include. The Ethics Review Committee was saying include. What level of harm are you predicting that you would want to exclude? And we didn't get any inclusions. When the possibility was there, only the children were included, dependent on data, not children under 6 months, and then the epidemic fizzled out. So really, the next epidemic is the problem.
So is the option then is that you have to take a stand, and instead of choosing between speed and justice, as you put that dynamic, you just say, okay, so nobody gets to have a chance. I mean, at what point, if this is the perfect case, the perfect storm,
this
and you
is
still
it,
can't
and I
get them
think
in.
exactly. But we were, as one, in a very difficult situation, and I don't know that there was. It's the one thing that is sort of. It gives one shivers because you are placed between doing the right thing for a larger population who may not be as high at risk as the one that you actually want to save. And do you actually take a stand and say, so nobody gets the vaccine until you agree? Or do you sort of now, when we predict for the next epidemic, involve people much more to be able to change protocols before they come?
Mike is coming.
I just want to add WHO's. I'm responsible for epidemic clinical management, so all my networks and my staff were in the field taking care of patients. So, like brincidofovir, the manufacturer pulled out the product. So we didn't know whether it's useful for non-pregnant people or general population. It was very premature situation, and then the manufacturer pulled the product back. So we can't really do anything about this situation. And for the vaccine, it's VSV vaccine. It's quite a new thing. We don't really have good data. But now we tried to, those small portion of population excluded, but many people, like thousands of people. So next outbreak, we will be one step in advance. But I don't think we wasted so much by unfortunate exclusion of those populations, but it was, I want to remind you that this was clinical trial of experimental medicine, and even in the emergency situation, we have to be certain about science, and we have to take appropriate steps. And then there are some, like pendulum, we were swinging between push and pull, and sort of try to find the right ground to move forward. We, of course, we didn't want to lose a single opportunity to move forward, to gain our knowledge, but there are certain, steps that we had to respect. And unfortunately, this was experimental medicine, so there was a limit that we could push. But I don't think we will waste this experience, and I think the consensus is really strong that we could now move to the next stage.
If I just can react, it's an important part of the population because it's sub-Saharan Africa, so at least 30% of the population is 18 or younger. I'm not sure if they're as likely to care for sick people, but it's 1/3 of your population that you're excluding. I'm not even talking about the pregnant women. And pregnant women in these countries is 4.2% of the population. It's 1 in 20. It's not negligible, like they are a reality. And I mean, of course, I also feel very uncomfortable. I'm a gynecologist. I can also get lawsuits if I prescribe medication to women and they have birth defects. But what I also saw was in the trials, like in some trials, no risk at all was taken. Like there was a vaccine in a trial in Sierra Leone and Liberia, which was stopped because not enough patients, good for the countries. But there they demanded a negative pregnancy test at moment of inclusion. It was a Prevail 1. While in the WHO trial, they just asked the woman if you're pregnant, and if you're not pregnant, you could get the vaccine. What I do think is that your colleague at WHO, Anna Maria Henauer-Restrepo, needs to publish about those 20 patients that were accidentally vaccinated.
Okay, I'll pass that message to her. Well, the other thing that we, as WHO, have been really struggling is to bring the vaccination concept to especially sub-Saharan Africa. We have been stigmatized a lot. If single adverse effect kills somebody, especially pregnant women, whole program will fail, and we have to spend decades to regain the trust. And sometimes we were used by the local activists that we were trying to sterilize girls by vaccination. And then the other area of interest might be, I think you can recall that how U.S. tried to detect Osama bin Laden. They used certain things for that. So there are lots of conspiracy around vaccine and vaccine policies. So we just have to move very carefully so that we can bring the agenda forward with a concrete consensus and safety ground for especially this population.
So thank you very much. This is obviously an issue that we need to continue discussing. We have, however, run out of time. So I think we're now moving into the breakout groups and then lunch afterwards. And thank you so much.
Just one message, one last point. So WHO published 6 Zika standard protocols on the website, and several research partners have also have them on their website, like ISAREC, Global Health, and also Institut Pasteur. So if you like to join this compendium, you're very welcome. And this is the point of developing standards guidance and protocols. And we use WHO Ethics Review Committee to get the approval so that you can start from there and try to expedite the national and local ethics review clearance. So I would like to raise your attention to these unpublished standard protocols. Thank you.